Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on what part of the world you're visiting us. Hi, my name is Daniel Marcos. I'm the CEO of the Growth Institute, and we're going to talk about how to prepare a one-page strategic plan. I've been running my companies with strategic plan for the last 19 years, and it's been amazing. Really enjoyed the clarity it has given me. So we're going to talk about that, and we have Anne here with us, Mark and Jonathan, three other scaling up certified coaches, and we're going to walk you through the process of a one-page plan, each one focusing on different parts of the plan. So please be very attentive to the call. Turn off your Facebook and all kind of distractions. Indeed, I just got a call from one of these marketers that I turned off. So look forward to getting a lot of value. So for the next hour, the four of us will walk you through a process of how to really build a one-page strategic plan to be able to focus your company and your team in the 2020. And by the way, I've been a CEO coach for the last 11 years, but I've been a CEO myself for the last 20 years. And the fastest that I grow, the more team members that I get, the biggest problem that I have is communication and alignment. And the one-page plan helps me to do both things. Helps me to focus everyone in whatever is important. And two, allows me to communicate more clearly with everyone in the organization. What do we have to do? Who's going to do what? And by when? And how do we measure that? So that's what we're going to see on the one-page strategic plan. And Jonathan, Mark, are you guys ready? All right. Okay, so let's start. So this is the agenda. Just a little bit of introduction to the four of us. Then we're going to dive into one-page strategic plan. We're going to show you every step of a one-page plan. And then recommendations for next steps, tools and resources. How can you implement your one-page plan in your company for 2020? And then live Q&A. We'll be here for some time, so you could ask any question that you have regarding building your one-page plan for next year. Alex is going to help us moderate the calls from our office in Austin, Texas. All right, a little bit of Growth Institute. This is who we are. We are a company that helps mid-market companies do two things: scale their impact and reduce their drama. As a CEO, as a leader of management team that we're growing our companies, we will always want to do two things: scale our impact and reduce our drama. So our role as Growth Institute is to help 10 million leaders like you be able to scale your impact and reduce drama. Up to today, we've trained over 40,000 executives from 10,000 different companies in 64 countries. By the way, Alex, I was speaking with someone that just purchased from Slovenia. So it should be client number 65 or country number 65. And by the way, the company was founded by Vern Harnish and myself, and this is some of our faculty. This is a little bit of the team. In our last retreat, we had close to Mexico City, just to know who's behind the cameras, making sure everything runs on the back. And very important, we're an Inc. 5000 company 2 years in a row. And why we say this, not to brag or anything, is just everything we teach, we use ourselves. As an example, the one-page plan, 2 hours prior to this call, I had a call with my leadership team. We're building the strategy for next year. So we're building what we call the column 4. We'll show you a little bit on that. And we're already working on that, finalizing our plan before we launch next year. So everything we teach, we use internally. This is myself, the CEO of the Growth Institute, and I'm also a scaling up certified coach for the last 11 years. Then we have Anne Ralston, that she's going to be in the camera in a couple of minutes, also a scaling up certified coach, John and Herbs, and Mark Miller. The four of us will share some more expertise on how to scale your company using your one-page plan, and we're open to any question at the end of the webinar. All right, so let me start just expressing this. This one-page plan is based on Vern Harnish 4 decisions model. Vern believes you have to take 4 decisions right to be able to scale your company. And I'm going to walk you through each decision just for you to understand which is the one you're having the most issues today or weakness today, so you could focus on fixing that or focus on improving that in 2020. So first, strategy. How do you know if your strategy is correct? Strategy gets reflected in your revenue and the growth of that revenue. So if your revenue is growing well, let's say you have a good strategy. For me, what does it mean that your revenue is growing correctly? Is you have to be growing at least twice the growth of the industry. As an example, Growth Institute in our industry is growing today at 16% a year. We should be growing at least at 32% a year. If we're growing 32% a year or more, that means our strategy is correct. If we're growing less than that, that means we have a problem with our strategy. Second, people. The people gets reflected in your happiness or the happiness of the team running together, and how much freedom do we have. Can you go on vacation for a week and they don't call you 40 times a day? You have a good team. Or we have a good time as a team. As an example, I'm flying in the next 2 hours and a half. I'm flying to Mexico. I'm going to have our Christmas celebration with the Mexico team tomorrow. So I'm flying tonight to Mexico, and we have fun together. And we've always said, every time we have issues in the company or whatever, we always said, hey, if we're not having fun, let's not even do this. This is to have fun. So you're not having fun with your team, and the team doesn't help each other and doesn't respect each other, you have a people problem. Execution. The execution gets reflected on the profitability of your business and the amount of time you dedicate to grow your business. If you work 16 hours a day and you're still not able to do your job, you have an execution problem. Or the profit of your business is less than the industry average. So going back again, if you want to be one of the good companies, you have to have twice the profit of the industry average. We've seen companies that run with scaling up with up to 3 or 4 times industry average profitability. So this is really important that you execute correctly, so you're able to have good profit and you have time to really enjoy everything else you like in life, your family, and the rest. And then the cash. And for me, cash is not a sickness, it's a symptom. So let me do just an analysis. When you go to your doctor, you say, hey, doctor, I'm sick. And doctor said, hey, why are you sick? Well, I have a fever. And doctor says, great. So let me ask you some questions to understand, why do you have a fever? So the cash is just a symptom that your company is sick of strategy, of people, and execution. If you have a strategy problem, that will create a cash problem. If you have a people problem, that will create a cash problem. If you have an execution problem, that will create a cash problem. But when people tell me, hey, I have a cash problem, I say, okay, let me ask you some questions to really understand what's causing the cash. So if you're having any cash issues today, I would ask that you ask yourself, what is causing the cash? If I give you a loan today, you're going to ask for a loan tomorrow if you don't fix whatever is creating the cash problem. So these are the 4 decisions. And Vern and we all in this call use this methodology to scale our companies. These are the 4 decisions you have to get right to be able to scale your company. And all of these, we put them together on the one-page plan. And that's what we're going to talk about. Can you state your strategy simply? We're going to focus most of the call today on strategy, but you will see on your one-page plan, you will have the 4 decisions reflected. So this is the one-page strategic plan. And I will just explain this slide myself, and then I'll give the microphone to the rest of the coaches. So how is the one page built? And it has a strategical and psychological process. So first, bottom to top, the first line, what we call the SWT, strengths, weakness, and trends. That's where you're standing up. Like if I'm going to run a race, I want to know if the floor is sand or is grass, or what kind of surface do I have? That's where your company is standing. Your strengths and your weakness and the trends of the industry. There's some trends that could benefit you or some trends that could hit you in the future. So you have to really understand what are the trends in the market, in your community, in your country, and then what are your strengths and weaknesses. And that's where you're basing your strategy. And then everything else you have here in the middle, that's what you're going to build. That's your strategy and your execution. And then everything you see in white at the top are the results. So if you build a good strategy and execute it correctly, then the results should be green and you should have good results. So I like to see it in a 3-tier to really understand what are the cards that I'm dealt with, what I'm doing, how I'm playing, and then what results am I expecting. And then I also like to see it from left to right. If you see what is gray here, that's your core. That's who you are. If your core is not strong, it's going to be really, really difficult to scale. And your core is your purpose, your why, your core values, and your strengths. And that's who you are. That's who I am. My core and my core values and who I am and everything, that was built when I was a kid. My parents helped me build who I am, and that's who I am. And then I have my strategic thinking, and it's everything that it's in blue. And that's all my strategy decision. And then everything in yellow, it's how you execute that strategy. So I love to divide the plan in three. My core, and that's who I am, that you will not change that. Then the blue is how I'm going to use my who, my strengths, and my core values to the best. And then all the yellow is my execution. And then, of course, I get my results on the top in white. It's a very, very simple way to see your plan. And now let's get deep into each of the boxes of the plan so it could help you build your plan. By the way, if you have questions about the plan, please begin sending the questions. Alex in the Austin office is looking at the questions and is going to help us moderate a Q&A at the end. All right. So, Anne, can we start with you? No, Jonathan.
Yeah, no worries at all, Daniel. Right. My apologies to everybody first. If I'm coughing, there are major bushfires and wildfires around us at the moment. We're okay, but we've got a huge smoke haze. So there's a lot, lots of smoke around, so I apologise.
Where are you based, Jonathan, by the way?
I'm about an hour and a half southwest of Sydney in Australia. Yeah, we've had huge wildfires for the last 3 weeks. We lost 1,000 homes. And Sydney is just covered in smoke haze. So my apologies. So I'm talking about the grey piece, the left-hand columns. I'm going to talk to you about core values, the core purpose, and the strengths, weaknesses, and trends. So let's start with the core values. So these are the rules and boundaries that define your company's culture and personality. And they provide essentially a final should and shouldn't test for all the behaviours and decisions by everybody in the company. If you think about this, this is a little bit like being a parent. You know, I've got 2 5-year-olds. You reiterate the behaviours that you want your child or children to, the way that you want them to behave, so that they can make decisions, hopefully without causing them self-injury or the like. And eventually, by the time they get 15, they're so ingrained that they're a good adult. So what the core values, there are a handful of rules that remain constant. And every decision in the company at every level can be based on the values. They're a guide to all the HR systems in the company: hiring, feedback, rewards, recognition, handbook, etc. There are 3 tests that we coach for core values. First and foremost, are they alive and well within the company? Do your staff live the core values? I'll give you the performance edge over your competitors. Secondly, will you fire someone for violating a core value? And thirdly, will you take a significant financial hit if one of your staff compromises a core value? And I recently had that with one of my clients where we knew we'd got it right, where one of the staff made an error. It cost the financial services client, cost the client $5,500, and there was no question at any time, at any level, that this company was going to make good on that. So, essentially those tests, the rule becomes, if you think you need to ask for permission for something, just consult the core values. So it gives the leaders the confidence to delegate important tasks, and they can trust employees to know the right things to do when faced with a decision or ethical dilemma. So essentially a handful of rules. We see ourselves repeating them a lot, and looking for our staff to stick to these values. The key thing here is to avoid platitudes. A lot of companies go out and spend a fortune on market research companies, and they come back with these platitudes like honesty, integrity, and teamwork and customer service, which are all great, but they're not real core values. And if you look at the one-page strategic plan that Daniel has put up at Tesco, you'll see that the core values they're talking about, their phrases, not a word. So we live to hear the word speed. We never say no. We always give options. We cultivate trust with clients. Key core values that will guide the company. And the thing is, when you first come up with them, don't carve them in stone. Let them bake for a year. Testing the validity over several quarterly planning sessions, and look for examples of where the staff are living the core values. And then lock them down after you've tested them. If you want a really good example of core values, go to www.atlassian, ATLASSIAN, atlassian.com/company/values, or just search Atlassian values. It's a unicorn in Australia. The founders came to one of Vern's workshops in 2007. They bedded the values down then, and they've lived the values ever since. They've gone from 50 staff to 8,500 staff in the space of about 10 years. Okay, so that's core values. I think we'll take questions at the end, Daniel. Is that the plan?
Correct.
Okay. So the second piece in the second column is core purpose. Some companies call it mission. This provides the critical why behind everything you do. What is the difference your company is making in the world? The best way to start this is to interview the founder to understand the historical purpose for being. Why do we exist? What is it that we do that makes us matter? What difference are we making in the world? And another key question is, what would happen if we went away? And for the staff, and particularly the younger millennials and the like, why do I devote my creative energies here? We find that with millennials particularly, having a strong core purpose that they can relate to leads to staff sticking around a lot longer. So examples of a core purpose, they tend to revolve around a single word. So 3M, innovation. Disney is happiness. Even Starbucks, it was built on the idea of it being an escape, a third place, a place between work and home. One I love is a company called Ashiana Homes, an Indian company, and this is where it translates across geographies. Ashiana Homes' purpose is nurturing smiles. The smile, the actual builder, when he hands the key to the person buying the house, the smile of the family who bought the house and they get the key, nurturing smiles. And it's led to the Ashiana being North India's #1 caring brand, voted a couple of years, and rated by Forbes amongst Asia's 200 best under $1 billion twice in a row. So it doesn't matter what geography you're in or what culture you're in, purpose matters. And it's interesting. Does it work? There's a survey called the Stengel 50, which is the list of the world's fastest growing brands, which has revealed a cause and effect when the brand is served by a higher purpose, which directly translates to 400% more profitability than an investment in the Standard & Poor's 500. Core purpose works. So my final piece I'm talking to is, if I'm looking to the right, I've got a timer keeping me in track. My final piece is the strengths, weaknesses, and trends at the bottom of the strategic plan. This is a tool that Vern designed to augment the standard SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What we've found is that the traditional SWOT drives leaders to look inward at both the company and the industry challenges they're in. It's not the right tool for identifying trends that might affect your company, your industry, or your geography. So what we coach is that we continue to use the SWOT with middle management teams, but the senior leaders look at the SWET, which is strengths, weaknesses, and trends. So what are we looking at? We're looking at trends not only in your industry, not only in your geography, but trends globally that can affect your business. Technology, distribution, product innovation, markets, consumer and social developments around the world that might shake up not only the business but the entire industry. Look at Brexit as an example. There's a key trend that is already affecting two of my clients who are both based here in Australia. And you're looking not only at companies over down the street, but companies overseas, but in totally different industries. Think about what AI and robotics is doing to the nature of work, and how that could affect you now and in the future. The other two key pieces here are the inherent strengths and weaknesses of your company. So an example Vern gives is a private school he sent his children to in Barcelona, in Spain. And the inherent weakness of this school was it was actually based in Barcelona. So any international children who are based in Madrid couldn't go to this school. But in turn, it had an inherent strength, which was it was in a very fashionable location in Barcelona. So look at the inherent strengths and weaknesses of the company that can't change, and those two together with the trends form the foundational most of your strategy. That's me, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah. And I really like what Vern says, that the SWOT traditionally gives you myopia. It shows you just to see short term. As you explained, it just helps you go way high with your eyes and just see farther. And I love that as a visibility as a CEO. Thank you very much for that, Jonathan. All right, Mark.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Jonathan. So I'm going to jump to the bottom of the column 2 on the one-page strategic plan to talk about the BHAG, which is the big, hairy, audacious goal. And Jim Collins and Jerry Porras, their fingerprints are all over several sections of this one-page strategic plan. And this is one of the places where we draw from Jim Collins' thought leadership with regard to the BHAG. And we want to use this instead of having a concept where we're just driving around the block with our business. We want to be driving specifically to a place. And in this case, Jim Collins likes to talk about it in the concept of an envisioned future. Your BHAG is your envisioned future of where we're going to go in a 10 to 30 year time frame. And it's thought of another way as the mountain that you're climbing. It's your Mount Everest. It's your North Star. It is, we like to say, about 70% realistic and 30% just to make you really nervous that it's going to stretch the limits of your capabilities. And then you're in the comfort zone of having a really good BHAG. In this case, in our Tesco case, you can see that they're seeking 1,000 installations within the Fortune 2500 globally. So they want to bring that to fruition within their BHAG timeline. And a tip I want to share with you about BHAG is that there's 4 general types to a BHAG. There's a target type, so you might set a target goal, a revenue goal, or some version of that. There's a role model BHAG that is Giro, the bicycle helmet company, had with regard to comparing themselves to Nike. They wanted to be the Nike of the bicycle helmet market. There's a competitive BHAG that you might choose if you wanted to position yourself relative to another competitor in your marketplace. And there's a transformational BHAG, which is to say, in this time and date of lots of company disruptions, we're watching many companies have to morph from what they were and where they drove their business to other areas of business. And in this case, a transformative BHAG would be a good option for that. Another tip on the BHAG is it really should align with what Jonathan talked about, which is your core purpose. Your core purpose is your what you want to accomplish and your reason for being. So your BHAG wants more of that purpose instituted throughout the marketplace. So there's a nice overlay with regard to that. I'll segue then, Daniel, into the profit per X, which is also there in column 2. In Tesco's case, you can see that they've got a profit per X goals ever increasing from the 125,000 to the 200,000. And what we're talking about in profit per X is we're talking about an overarching key performance indicator that really is the driver of the economic engine. And it stems from Jim Collins, again, in his hedgehog concept. But it's really a lens that allows you to look through your business from an overarching KPI standpoint. And in the numerator, it could be a revenue, it could be a gross margin, or profit. But we want to highlight optimizing the impact of revenue and optimizing cost to the low side to stretch profitability. And then your denominator is the scalable metric of your business. For example, Southwest Airlines in the airline industry is a great example. The airline industry was often in a per mile, a revenue per mile type measurement KPI. Southwest so said, hey, we're profit per plane. And it causes a very different look at your business. In Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about Walgreens being profit per customer transaction versus Eckerd, which had profit per store. And as you might imagine, the behavior and the choice of the profit per X lens results in very different behavior. Eckerd would not have lots of concentrated stores with a profit per store, profit per X, whereas Walgreens had stores that were almost as deep as Starbucks, looking at the profit per customer transaction. So this overarching KPI can really impact how you look at your strategy and what you want to drive there. And the profit per X really nicely ties to your BHAG. So you'll remember Tesco's BHAG, and you're driving X number of BHAGs. Well, great, this is the profit per X on the way to measure and support your BHAG measurement. And that's how it really ties nicely together. So next is the 3 to 5 year targets. And this answers, as you can see at the top of the third column, where we're headed in the next 3 to 5 years. We look at this and say, hey, if you could make a forecast about where your company is going to double, can you double it in 3 years? Can you double it in 5 years? And you want to narrow in on potential that time frame, whether it's a 15 or 25% growth rate. But really, the 3 to 5 year target is about establishing your base camp on your way up to your BHAG. So think of your Everest as your BHAG, and now we're establishing that target line for your base camp. And we want to put some real quantitative measurements about it to make it real. Your revenues, your profit, your market cap, your cash, whatever those important elements are to you for your business, but putting quantitative parameters around it. The sandbox, which is at the bottom of that, is about, and we pull this off our 7 strata as well. The sandbox is about making sure we're very clear about what customers, what geography, and what products and services we're going to serve our customers with, and going to work through on the way to achieving our targets for the 3 to 5 year plan. The brand promise is the key factors that set us apart and differentiate ourselves from our competitors. It's the ultimate commitment we have and accountability to our core customer, and it drives the core customers to us, focusing on the primary needs of our core customer, not their wants. And I know that's saying a lot, and we really drive some of this from our 7 strata too. But a lot of strategy drives out of meeting these needs of the core customer. And that core customer is that person we're selling to for optimal profit. In Tesco's case here, their brand promises are speed of installation, easy to do business with, and results in a week. And what's important to know here, and a key tip, is we typically like 3 brand promises. A primary brand promise meeting a very critical need that your core customer has to draw their attention and drive them to you. And it's important that you're not vague here, we want to improve quality or we want to improve service, because the next step is to put KPIs around the brand promise. And that's our brand promise KPI. And these are what we also refer to as, in this case, KPI as kept promise indicator. We want to be able to measure these brand promises. In Southwest Airlines case, they wanted low fares, lots of flights, and lots of fun, and each were very measurable. Rackspace is known as having fanatical support and had 3 critical brand promises, all with KPIs around them that they measured to make sure fanatical support, the way they defined it, was being upheld. And you can see the KPIs on the screen from Tesco's standpoint. But the key thing to understand about brand promise is it's really the linkage between strategy and execution. This is where it's come together. The core customer you have is seeing the iceberg percentage above the waterline, while below the waterline, your core processes, your systems, all the activity of your company is driven to support these brand promises, these measurable KPIs above it. And when you pull all that together, your strategic elements, your targets, your support for your brand promises, You now want to turn that into your key thrusts and capabilities that you want to establish over those next 3 to 5 years that are going to affirm and support your market positioning so that you can make sure you're on the path to achieving those goals. And if you could look at the next slide there, Daniel. Great. So that's your key thrusts and capabilities. Driven out of strategy, and the definition for strategy is a unique and valuable position through creating a unique and valuable position from a different set of activities. That being said, your brand promise is those differentiating activities that you're measuring on your way to your targets. So those key thrusts and capabilities are essential to make sure you're on the path to have that all come to fruition. And in Tesco's case, you've got the international component and some automation elements and their best place to work status. So think of these as sort of your medium-term priorities that support your strategic direction for the next several years. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it. So that was, and guys, that's an example. He walked us through what is the BHAG, and that's your 10 to 30 year timeline, and then to 3 to 5 year timeline. So every column has a different timeline. Now we're going to go to Ann, that is going to help us go through the 1 year and then the quarter.
Great. Excuse me. Thank you. So everything that you've done to this point is really part of the strategy. And now we're really taking that step into the execution and execution thinking of a plan. So in the 1 year, we start off with creating, we create the metrics that are going to help us know if we're on track towards our 3 to 5 year targets. And those metrics are the metrics that are most important to your organization. In this example, we have almost all financial metrics. We have AR, days in accounts receivable and accounts payable. But in, excuse me, in a nonprofit, you may have an impact metric. If you're interested in customer satisfaction, you may have an NPS score. Or if you're looking at your employee satisfaction, like this Tesco company, they want to be one of the best places to work. An additional thing they could measure would be their employee NPS, their eNPS. So the metrics that you choose are specific to what you're trying to accomplish for your organization. Next slide, Daniel, please, if you would. Great. And then the key initiatives in the 1 year time frame, these are those things that are most important for you to accomplish so that you can hit your 3 to 5 year goals and accomplish your BHAG. So we only want 3 to 5, because if you try and do everything, if you try and do 6 or 7 or 8, you probably won't do a really good job at any one, and you'll confuse the heck out of your employees. So for example, the alignment between the 3 to 5 year and the 1 year, in Tesco's case, they wanted to be a best place to work. And so one of their key initiatives would be ensuring that the team member really understands the core values, the core purpose, and the BHAG to really drive to create that culture. Next slide, please. And then in the 1 year time frame, this is the first time we see critical numbers. Critical numbers are a pair of numbers. They're two. They balance one another out. So if you imagine operating an organization that was totally driven by sales and that was all they measured, it would be hard for them to know when they compromised customer satisfaction or quality of product, because they would just be driving towards that one number, and they could really undermine their own organization. So they could grow too fast. So critical numbers balance things like people and process. They could take a number from the balance sheet as balanced against the profit and loss sheet. Or they can be leading or lagging indicators. And this is my favorite kind, because when we're looking at the numbers at the top of this column, they're the kind of numbers you report quarterly, and you report those at the end of the quarter. So a leading indicator is going to help you figure out how you're going to know you're on track during the quarter to accomplish, or the year, to accomplish your goal. So I think leading indicators are super important for us to consider when we set up a critical number. The critical numbers operate, they're red, yellow, green, and super green. So in the square that's circled here, the critical number is hiring 5 PhDs. Well, if they hit 6, they're in their super green or stretch goal. Great. Next one. You can skip that one and go on to the next. That's the balancing number. Great. Now, I wanted to address this kind of as a whole. So we've looked at the column 1 year, which is really talking about the what we're going to do. And you'll notice it's really nicely aligned with the actions, or the quarterly, how we're going to do it. And so again, at the top of the quarter column, it has a set of metrics, and these metrics are aligned with the 1 year metrics. The rocks are the actions, the big rocks that you put in are the big actions in the quarter. And this alludes to Stephen Covey's story of the big rocks. If you put the big rocks in a bucket first, you can fill it in with smaller rocks, pebbles, sand, and water, and get a whole heck of a lot more in the bucket than you can if you put the water in first, then the sand, then the small rocks. You never get the big rocks in. So these are those things that are most important for you to accomplish your quarter. And of the metric, or of the rocks, we want to see 3 to 5, and we want to pick one that is most important. When you have that most important thing, then we create critical numbers that represent that thing, so everybody can pile on to doing that one thing that's most important for the organization. In this example of Tesco, the one thing that they pull out, even though it's at the bottom of the list, is hitting 12,000 client meetings with the whole team. So their whole sales team is going to touch base with 12,000 clients. And that's going to drive the number of service contracts that they had, which is one of their critical numbers. The second of their critical numbers is, oh, thank you, Daniel, that's a little easier to read. The second of their critical numbers is utilization rate. So they're making sure they use their people to the most effective way. And so those are the two numbers that they're balancing out there. Now, I said that they must have chosen the 1,200 client meetings as their one thing, because if we look at the next column, this is a place to have fun. This is an annual theme, or annual or quarterly theme. And you could do either. You could do an annual theme or a quarterly theme. But for this one, it's a quarterly theme, and they want to have those 1,200 face-to-face meetings. And so their theme is Race to 1,200. And if you imagine what that looks like, we could measure, let's say the distance from Washington to DC to Dallas, Texas is about 1,200 miles. So you could put a big map on a wall and use that as a scoreboard to indicate progress. Or you could use a mountain climber, or you could use lots of different visual things that keeps that theme present in front of your whole team. And it's telling them the progress every step of the way. The other two parts of the theme are a celebration and a reward. So if you hit this theme for the quarter, Tesco is planning on having a big dinner. That's their celebration. And the reward that they've chosen is $12,000, which they're going to allow the employees to choose the favorite charities for that contribution. So with the celebration and the reward, you want to make them relevant, and you want to make them something special. Especially if you're taking on a huge goal, which most companies do with their quarterly and annual themes. So finally, we have on the far column, we have accountability, your accountability. This is the individual accountability. How I, as an employee, know I'm having a great day. What are the metrics that I measure that by? What are the KPIs that I'm accountable for, so that we can accomplish the goals of the quarter, so that we can accomplish the goals of the year. And again, in this column, we have specific priorities that people are accountable for. This quarterly priority column is one of the people on this plan. And that person also has critical numbers by which they can tell if they're doing a good job. So if they have a leading indicator, they can tell, for example, how many client meetings are being scheduled. That would be a leading indicator to the number of meetings that they're going to have, which would be a leading indicator to the number of contracts they could sell. So I think the key thing with this whole execution piece is, just like Daniel said, it's about alignment and communication. And if you have it done right and you check it on a regular rhythm of meetings and keep it's alive, it's not a static document, it's an alive document, then you increase the odds that you're going to align your team, have good communication, and hit your 4 decisions.
Awesome, thank you, Ann. And I really like, as you said on the execution, how everything is aligned from the 1 year, from the quarter, from the person, and everyone has the same structure and same alignment. So there's no discussion of who's going to do what and by when. And it's very, very clear the who, the numbers, and everything. I think this makes, as the CEO, to be able to run a company, things much, much easier for the company. Now we talk about the one-page plan. If you want to put everyone on the same page, you first need to build a page, and that's a one-page plan. But the one-page plan needs more things to be able to implement that correctly in your business. We believe there's 3 ways that you could implement this in your business. First, a book, a coach, or an online implementation program. So let me guide you through the 3 options. First, the book. Most of the things that we review today come from Vern Harnish's Scaling Up book. It's an amazing book. It's my Bible. Indeed, you see it here. It's my Bible, how I run my business. I've been running my businesses for the last 20 years using this methodology. It was called first Mastering Rockford Habits. Now it's called Scaling Up. It's an amazing tool. Over 40,000 companies around the world use it. It's the most used or widely used methodology for mid-market companies or scale-ups around the world. And here's something very important. In the methodology, you will learn how to take 4 decisions. Which are the 4 critical things you have to do as the CEO or the entrepreneur in a business to be able to scale your business? So first is people. You first have to get the wrong people off the bus and the right people on the bus. And that's how the scaling starts. So we give you a lot of tools, how to really understand your team, how to really see who's really adding value, and be able to guide and build a team that really could help you scale your business. Then strategy, the center of the strategy is a one-page strategic plan, but we have a lot of other tools like the vision summary, the 7 strata, and all these things. So you have to get the strategy right to be able to scale your business, and then put everything in a page so everyone could read it and you could align everyone to the strategy of the business. Then you have execution. How do you make all of this happen, right? So we believe there's the 4 decisions you have to take right as a CEO, and then 3 disciplines that will allow you to be able to implement in your business and align everyone in your company to be able to help you execute that strategy. And that's a part of execution. And then cash. We know that growth sucks cash. The faster that you grow, the more cash you need to invest in your business. We're going to give you a lot of tools to allow you to be able to build some cash, and that cash will allow you to be able to scale your business. So if you really want to scale up your business, these are the 4 critical decisions you have to take right. They're all in the book. It's an amazing book. I strongly recommend you buy a box of books and give it to everyone on your management team. It's an amazing read that will align everyone. The second option is you hire a scale-up coach. We are 180 coaches or so around the world. I'm a scale-up coach. I've been a coach for the last 11 years, but I've been running with this model as a CEO for the last 20 years. So if you want a coach, just let us know. We'll be happy to introduce you to the right coach or whoever is in your region. Using a coach, you'll be talking about $60,000 to $100,000 of an implementation. It's an amazing program, but a lot of companies said, hey, I'm not necessarily sure, I want to learn more, or I cannot invest the $60,000, $70,000 at least. But it's by far an amazing option to be able to help you implement the methodology. And then online Scaling Up Master Business course. This is the best course indeed. It's the only course by Vern online to teach you how to scale up your business. But let me just walk you through this a little bit. We've been running this class for the last 6 years, at least 4 times a year, and it's been amazing. The class, you get around 8 or 9 hours of video with Vern, teaching you all the methodologies. Then you get 8 live group coaching calls. So we put you together in a call with a coach, a Scaling Up certified coach, to walk you through the process and guide you on what you have to do and be able to solve your questions in the process. Then you get a one-on-one call with your coach. So you build your one-page plan during the program, and then you send your one-page plan to your coach. The coach will review it and then get into a one-on-one call with you to be able to guide you if the one-page plan is correct or not, or if there's some things you have to adjust, he will guide you exactly how to adjust them. So that call is extremely important to make sure your strategy is correct. We don't want you to have a strategy and go in the wrong direction. Once you finish your one-page strategic plan, you send it to your coach, and they confirm that your plan is correct. It sounds good. It gives you a couple of adjustments, and then send you out to implement. And then you get, of course, all the growth tools, including the one-page strategic plan. You get a lot of the rest of the growth tools. And then you get a mastermind. You get 5 sessions of mastermind with other CEOs and C-level executives all around the world taking the class together. And people said, hey, the videos were amazing, the coaching calls and all that. But what really solidified the implementation for me was the masterminds. We put you together in smaller groups, 8 to 10 executives taking the class, and you're taking the class or having this mastermind with an entrepreneur in India, a CEO in Japan, someone else in Mexico, someone in Canada, the US, all over the world. We have students that have taken the program in over 65 countries around the world. So it's very, very rich to be able to say, hey, I implemented this, it didn't work, what do you do here and all that, and you help each other implement. So we have 5 masterminds, and they're moderated by one of our scale-up coaches to guide the conversation and be able to have everyone sharing and be able to everyone to help. So it's the most comprehensive program. We have over 70% implementation of the program after they take the class. And here, let me just give you a parenthesis. In the world, when people buy an online class, the average completion rate is 15%, 1-5. The MOOCs, all these massive courses, is 3% the completion rate. Our Master Business course with Scaling Up is over 70% completion rate, 7-0. It's unheard of, the completion rate, because of all the coaching calls, the mastermind, the one-on-one calls, and everything we do to help you implement. So if you want to implement Scaling Up in your business, it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. If you want information and apply to the program, and by the way, it's just by application. You have to apply to make sure you are going to be able to get a lot of value to the program, and also you're able to add value to the program. We do these cohorts of 75 students, so you have to apply to make sure you could come up to one of these cohorts of 75 C-level executives of scale-ups around the world. If you want more information on application, go to growthinstitute.com/scaling up. The program is called Scaling Up Master Business Course 2.0. Is the best methodology and program to implement scaling up in your business. We also have a self-paced option for you. A lot of the people that have been in the webinar and other past live sessions, they said, hey, the program is amazing, but I would like to do it at my own time. I cannot dedicate 2 or 3 hours a week. I want to do it at my time, or I want to binge watch it. We've had calls from clients calling me on a Friday and saying, hey, I need to be able to have a one-page plan by Monday. I'm seeing an investor or whatever. I'm going to binge watch the program. Can you give it to me so I could really learn in 2 or 3 days? Yes, you can. So we build a self-paced option, but the main difference is instead of having the coach class, the live sessions, we give you a series of emails on a process of how you could do it at your own time and speed. If you want to do it in 2 days, in 2 weeks, in 6 months, or even a year, this will allow you to do it at your own time. So first, let me tell you a little bit about the course. So the course has all the videos with Vern, all the coaching tools, all the guiding of how to implement in your business, all the materials, all the homeworks, everything that you have on the coach class, it's included in this program, except the live sessions with the coach and the mastermind. Everything else is included in a self-paced, so you could do it at your own time. And that class we sell for $990. But if you buy today, in the next 24 hours, we'll give you a $200 discount on the class. So you will pay only $790 for the class. So below there's a button for you to buy directly and get a $200 discount today, only for next 24 hours for $790. It's an amazing tool. So now you've seen the one-page strategic plan. Now you got an idea of how to do it. You want to get deep on how to really do one? We have all the videos from Vern going square by square, telling you exactly how to do it and when to do it. You will get all the tools and everything so you could do it on your own. But not just the one-page strategic plan. We give you all the people tools, all the cash tools, and then how to make it all implement in your business, how to make it work. So if you really want to take your company to the next level, it's an amazing tool. I've been using it as an entrepreneur for the last 19, 20 years. I met Vern for the first time. I'm taking this class in MIT. It changed the way I run my company, and I've been running as an entrepreneur for the last 20 years using this, and then as a coach for the last 11. And it just works. It's an amazing, amazing program. Remember, if you're a entrepreneur or a C-level executives, and you guys want to drive scaling in your business, this is the best tool for you to do it. So just imagine, instead of all the drama that you're having and then having team focusing and doing all these kind of things, now you're going to have everyone aligned, working together without working in silos. And by the way, that's another thing I hear a lot. Yeah, we're all the time working in silos. Once we implement scaling up, we're all beginning to work, focus as a team in whatever is important. So if you really want to scale your company in 2020, this is an amazing offer, just available in the next 24 hours. Hope you could join us and you're able to implement scaling up to really be able to have a great year, and more importantly, enjoy the ride. The most important thing that scaling up does, it will allow you and your team to really enjoy scaling your company. So to you, and having a great 2020. Okay, so let's get into the Q&A. Alex, can you send me the questions?
I'll just read them out so the four of you guys can answer. Awesome. So the first one is asking, how does mission differ from vision? I usually believe that vision is short phase, while mission is multiple statements of how to achieve the vision.
Who wants to answer that? Difference between mission and vision.
I suppose I'll start on that. I suppose what we coach is one only. I personally find when you've got missions and visions and all of these different statements, I personally get confused, and I found when I was a CEO, my staff did as well. So we do coach this concept of the core purpose, which equates to mission and vision. So one definitive statement that drives the business, not two or three.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Can you guys share the definition of the rocks again?
And do you want to take that?
Sure, I'll take that. The rocks are your quarterly priorities. They're the key things that you need to accomplish this quarter so that you can hit your one-year goal. They're generally things that are going to change. They tend to be, if you had, let's say you needed to hire a specific person, like these guys are hiring PhDs. Let's say they needed to hire a specific PhD in this quarter so that they could accomplish some big task for the next quarter. That would be a quarterly rock.
So sorry, let me just get a little bit more detail here. So as Anne mentioned originally, if you could just do 3 things, maximum 5 on the quarter, what are things that you could not miss so you don't get distracted with small stuff? And that's what keep the team aligned in the things. And I tell people, if you don't do these 5 things, you're going to get fired. You could do whatever as an addition, but we have to make sure that as a team, we get these 5 things accomplished. And Anand said it best at the beginning. That's the best way to keep your team aligned in the quarter, and don't allow them just to dribble and go somewhere else.
Thank you. So the next question is, what should be the review and repetition practice for using the one-page strategic plan?
Mark, do you want to answer that?
Sure. We encourage leadership teams to be together on a weekly meeting cadence, reviewing the status of their priorities and their rocks to make sure. We call it a 13-week race. So once you've established your quarterly rocks and individual priorities, 13 weeks isn't a lot of time. So if too many weeks go by and people haven't stepped into these really important initiatives for the company, then sometimes it's too late to meet the time frame that we've established. So we like it to be a topic of a weekly meeting. It's neat when you can have the traffic light signals of red, yellow, green against your targets, and then you're talking about the reds and yellows, and you don't need to talk about the greens because everyone has their priorities on track. So it's almost management by exception when you get it down to a science like that. I'll allow the other coaches to step in and augment anything I've said there.
Yeah, one thing I think all the coaches do. We also have a quarterly strategic review with our leadership teams. So I work on a of 2 days every quarter, and I think the final thing is probably not to beat yourself up. When you sit down with the leadership team and try and do this one-page strategic plan, it's hard, and most of my clients don't get it all done in one sitting. It's an iterative process that we build and grow on over time, and so don't beat yourself up if you don't get it all done in one go. Is the key message I would give. It will take you time.
Thank you. Next question is specifically for you, Jonathan. You mentioned 3 types of brand promises. Can you talk about those?
I think that was Mark, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mentioned the 4 types of BHAGs. I don't think I mentioned 3 types of brand promises.
Can you repeat them again, please, Mark?
Of the BHAGs, there was the target, the role model, the competitive, and the transformational. Those were the 4 types of BHAGs. Brand promise, what I talked about 3 there is you typically have 3 brand promises, a primary and then 2 more minor brand promises that are really focused on the key needs of your core customer.
Thank you. This is an interesting question from Dave. He's asking, should the one-page strategic plan be 1 per person, then you compile for accountability purposes, and then again for separate business units, or how do you break that up for organizations?
Who wants to answer that?
I'll take on part of it. Let's see how we do. So yeah, I think for small organizations, it's really doable to use paper for a one-page plan that you may complete through the quarter, get the quarter rocks and themes in, and then each person would have their own one-page plan with their own accountabilities and be able to post those or make them visible so people know what other folks are doing. If you have a larger organization, there are a couple different kinds of software. One's Align that allows you to digitize all of this stuff so that when you're looking at the quarterly priorities, you can actually see who owns different parts and pieces of it, and you can see their accountabilities online. And this really is useful in larger distributed companies, because then you can have virtual meetings. You could meet on Zoom and still be able to see the different priorities. Even if you're not distributed, one of my clients meets virtually. It just saves people time coming into the office. You also can do this by business unit. You would probably have a master strategic, a master one-page plan. That's kind of the overarching plan for the organization, and then the business units or divisions could have their own plans. The critical piece there would be some kind of integration conversation so that everyone is still on the same page. That's where communication, the more people you have, the more challenging communication gets. Dan, you want to add anything to that?
I think you said it best. So good. I agree with that.
Okay. So the next one, should the transformational BHAG be stated as where we want to be, or how the world will be when we're done?
Yeah, that's your envisioned future. So it's your world, your future state of how you want it to be.
So let me add something I learned at Singularity. I've been having a discussion with about BHAG and MTPs with Peter Diamandis. And Peter said the biggest mistake that people do whenever they do a long-term strategy, they focus on what's going to change in the future. He said, I get a lot of people paying me a lot of money to ask me one question: what is going to change in the future? But they've never paid me a dime to ask me what I think is a more important question: what is not going to change in the future? So I'll give an example. The other day, we got a company coming to Growth Institute and said, hey, I have stores that we sell women's shoes. I have 20 stores. I already did my big hack. I want 200 stores. Can you help me guys do it? And we said no. And he said, why not? Because if we help you get to 200 stores, you're going to go bankrupt faster. And he kind of got upset the way we explained it. But we said, hey, if your focus is building stores, you're completely done. The process of buying shoes is going to change dramatically. Instead of focusing on building stores, focus on helping women buy shoes. So we made an analysis of what's going to change and what is not going to change. The process, the way you're going to buy shoes, is going to change dramatically. But what is not going to change is women will still want to buy 40 pairs of shoes. That's not going to change. So you have to do a BHAG, a transformational BHAG, based on something that is not going to change in the future. And that's something you could do for 20, 30, 50 years.
Thank you. Can you guys describe the sandbox again?
Sure. The sandbox is, it's a great analogy, right, to the playground. The sandbox is the customers, the geography, and the products and service parameters that you're putting upon, that you're going to play in your field of play with to get to your target and to get on your way to your BHAG. Your strategy is more about what you say no to than what you say yes to, and your sandbox helps set the stage for the what's going to be in your playing field to get there.
Thank you. There's another question about the reviewing process. If we do a review and our rocks are not working after a 4-week period, should we change our rocks and critical numbers?
I'll take that. If your rocks aren't working, I would be most curious about why they're not working before you change them. I would be all over finding out what's going on. It could be that you set the wrong goals, absolutely. But if those are the most important things for the company to achieve and you're not achieving them, I would be waving all sorts of flags, trying to understand what's going on and why they're not being accomplished. Did people drop the ball? Did something change in the market? So I guess the answer is it depends, but I would get really curious really fast if they're not working.
Can I jump in there as well? And one of the things I found with one of my clients recently was when we started implementing this, over about a 3-month period, the owner CEO realized that his two key general managers were actually in the wrong people in the wrong role. Well, even though they'd set the right rocks for the growth of the company, they didn't have the right people there to execute them. And I think that's the point coming out of what Aaron's saying. One of the key things we coach within the people piece is, have we identified the right seats on the bus? Do we have the right people on the bus? And are the right people doing the right things? Sorry.
Thank you. So I think we only have time for maybe one last question. Can you guys talk about what the purpose of the scoreboard design section is?
I'll take that again. The purpose of the scoreboard design sketch, you would do a pencil sketch or drop a graphic in there of an idea for the design. So let's say, again, we'll go back to Tesco. They had 1,200 customer visits that they wanted to accomplish in the quarter. And so I would sketch in, perhaps I'd sketch in a mountain with a flag on top of it with 1,200 on the flag. And then that gives me the kind of the notion or idea that we can organize a larger scoreboard, like a physical scoreboard somewhere to be seen in the organization. But it's just designed for a pencil sketch to get the ideas going, and then after that you make it real on the wall or on your monitor or wherever it is. I like it on the wall. I like people to be able to touch it, to see it, and to walk up and up close to it and see what's going on with it.
Great, thank you. Any final thoughts from the 4 coaches before we close out for today?
Let me add one thing regarding the rocks. every time we help a company build a one-page plan, it's very important to have leading indicators and lagging indicators. So if your ROC is not working, that's a lagging indicator. You should have some leading indicators, KPIs, that will allow you to understand what part of the funnel of the process it's breaking up. So you're able to identify much faster if it's not going to work. If you have the right leading indicators, you should be able to understand very, very fast that it's not working and be able to improve it or fix them before it becomes a problem.
And so let me add one more thing, because we've talked about the one-page plan with communication and we've talked about it with execution. And what Daniel just said is it helps companies learn faster. And if you can learn faster, that's a huge strategic advantage. So it's important for that as well.
Great. Any final thoughts for Jonathan, Mark, before we head out?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Dan, you want to close us out?
Thank you all. We know the thing that you have the least is time. So really thank you that you spent this hour with us. We hope you learned a lot, and this will help you have a much stronger 2020. And Jonathan, Mark, thank you very much for your time and your guidance and thoughts. It was awesome to have a webinar with you guys and be able to share your knowledge and your way of seeing the one-page plan. So thank you all. Alex, thank you for hosting this and organizing, and all the team at Growth Institute to make it happen. Thank you all. Hope you have a great afternoon, and see you all at the Scaling Up class that starts on December 11th. We'll have a couple of weeks for vacation, but it's very, very important to use this time to really start thinking about your strategy and building your one-page plan to have a great 2020. See you at the class. Thank you all. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.